much. Let's bring in our distinguished panel for some commentary. We have P.J. Crowley, who's former U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Public Affairs, retired four-star Army General and NBC military analyst Barry McCaffrey, New York Republican Congressman and retired Marine Michael Grimm, and Senator Tom Coburn still with us. Joe McCaffrey, can I go to you first? Troop withdrawal, but not relationship withdrawal. We're going to be there for quite some time, training their forces in counterterrorism and developing Afghan security to destroy al-Qaeda and their Taliban allies. Is it realistic, General McCaffrey? Is it doable?
Well, that's probably the more important of the two questions. The front end of it, though, is do we have a choice? With 70% of the American people not supporting continuation of the war, at $10 billion a month, with several hundred killed and wounded going into the second decade, it's really hard to do another course of action. My own view is to be rather skeptical of what will happen after 2014. I'd be unsurprised if it doesn't unravel on us. I'd be unsurprised if we didn't feel that 20,000 troops spread all over the country as advisors without much combat capability would be too much at risk. And then finally, I'd be unsurprised if Congress will pay for continued funding of a presence if we don't have any ability to run counterterrorism operations with drone strikes against packed safe havens. So I think it was a statesmanlike, excellent piece of political theater, but I'm skeptical in the long run it's going to work.
All right, thank you. Congressman Michael Grimm, will this policy, as you heard it this evening, have support, first of all, from yourself, you are an ex-veteran, second of all, from the Republican leadership in the House?
I think at first it'll have some. I mean, there's no question that the toll on our military is obvious, okay? The amount of post-traumatic stress, the amount of injuries. It's time to bring our troops home, and I don't think anyone wants to give back some of the success that we did have. But I agree with the General that it's going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible. I've been to Afghanistan. I can tell you it is going to be close to impossible to actually do this.
You served in both Desert Storms, did you not?
Yes, I did.
Right.
And then I also went over as a member and met with the troops that were training the Afghans, and I got to tell you, with a complete lack of infrastructure, without any ability to really go to the next level on their own, I just don't see how they don't fall back, and we're not going to have enough troops there to keep them safe. It's just the troops that they do leave behind are going to be in harm's way.
All right, Senator Coburn, there is an issue about whether the troop strength is going to be safe, but there's a second issue. We're going to be there a while. The troops may be leaving, but the relationship is not ending, and we're setting some tall goals. President's nation building and security. Those are tall goals. How do you see it?
Well, I think you have to look at the culture of how things operate in Afghanistan. It's very worrisome to me because it's a culture of corruption. There's not transparency. The President mentioned transparency. I don't see how we get that out of there. I want to defer judgment until I see the details of the plan, the agreement we've made. Americans are war-weary. They're war-weary anytime we put them at risk when we have no intention to completely win. And I think that's the problem as we pull out. What will happen as General McCaffrey? He's not going to be surprised if it doesn't work.
P.J., welcome back as a former Obama spokesperson in the State Department. Why did the President choose to give this in Afghanistan?
Well, he went to Afghanistan to sign this partnership agreement. He went to Afghanistan to see President Karzai. The last time he was in Afghanistan, he did not have that opportunity. Obviously, the fact that he's here on May 1st might have something to do with politics. But I just want to come back to a key point here. You know, in the aftermath of wars, we have done this successively. We stayed in Japan, are still there. We stayed in South Korea, we're still there. We stayed in Europe, we're still there. After the war ends, there's still lots of work to do to make sure there's return on investment of the military campaign that the President says he wants to tie down. There's also a very stern message here because Afghanistan has always been a victim of hands in the cookie jar from its surrounding neighbors. So this is a clear statement to Pakistan. We're going to stay engaged in Afghanistan, and you can play a constructive role, but we're going to continue to make sure that the extremists that are within your sovereign territory don't threaten. threaten us.
And
it's a very clear statement to the Taliban: come to the peace table and let's make an agreement that brings Taliban into the political process under the right set of circumstances.
All right, I think these are very important points. We're going to pick them up later, but Congressman Grimm, just off the top, you heard P.J. Crowley. We are going to stay. Are we obliged to stay? That's the key point. Are we obliged to stay, to build the nation, to protect their security, in effect to complete the...
When you look at the fact that, yes, there's a tremendous amount of corruption, they're very, very tribal, there's a porous border with Pakistan, and then there's another issue that no one's really mentioning. You know, does the president have the clout and the respect of our enemies to actually make these words make a difference? Will Pakistan respect what the president wants to do here? You've seen Iran push the envelope to the nth degree because, quite frankly, they see us as weak and they perceive the president as weak.
I want to come back to this key Pakistani issue in just a moment. Don't go away, folks. We're going to continue live coverage from CNBC of the presidential address to the nation. We'll be back with our distinguished panel: P.J. Crowley, General McCaffrey, Senator Tom Coburn, Congressman Michael Grimm. I'm Larry Kudlow. Stay with us right after the break. We'll be back.